All right, we're good.
I feel like this guy's like real close up on me.
Oh man, he has no boundaries. He doesn't know his personal space.
There, I feel better now.
Yeah, he just thinks because he's a butler, he can do whatever he wants. All right, you good? You're jumping into this. Okay, This is the first official True Potential podcast. I have Dalton Laino here with me. I'm Connor Pedersen. So I've been thinking about starting a podcast for a long time, and a certain life event happened recently, and I thought this was the perfect time to start it. This is the perfect conversation that needs to be had, I think, around a certain topic. And I thought, let's use this as the catalyst for, making great content and making things that help people. And yeah, so I brought in my good friend here that's really great at asking me tough questions to help me host.
I'm excited about the potential of this podcast.
Yo, the potential of the podcast. That makes a lot of sense. Did you workshop that before you came, or?
I've been thinking about it, and I thought that I would sneak it in. So
nice.
I am excited, though. I think I've told you this before. I think you have a lot of good things to say.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to be able to join in on this life-altering, thing that happened and workshop it with you. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to diving into all the fun stuff.
Totally. So I'll just basically start and get everybody on the same page. So essentially, and this might be news to a few people, I essentially decided to withdraw from school this week.
Dropout.
I dropped out. Yeah, I dropped out. The words that everybody's afraid to say to their parents, when they're like 20, hey mom, hey dad, like I dropped out. Like, and
it's like, well, Connor, now what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? The challenge was I was already doing a lot with my life, and I think that was part of this whole issue, right? So I'll kind of start from the beginning. Like, I run a business, obviously. It's called See Potential. Basically, I help people with their wellness, their health, fitness. I basically want to mold humans to get better. I want them to be confident. I want them to believe in themselves. And last year, I started up a bunch of different, pieces of that business. I essentially started coaching basketball again because I loved it and I wanted to help youth. I obviously expanded kind of my personal training business and my nutrition coaching business. And then, because my tagline's mind, muscle, fuel, I was like, oh, wow, like, what if I could have a mental component? What if I could be better there? And, to be, totally transparent, I was with my therapist at the time, and we talked a lot about how capable I am and good I am at talking with people and like listening to people and holding space for people, and how I could translate that into part of my service offering and, maybe something that would help. And she, said, have you ever thought about being a therapist? And I thought, wow, like maybe that's what I'm meant to do. And it seemed like a beautiful alignment with the mind, muscle, fuel, right? So I was very, very excited and tied to that. Fast forward a year later, and all these things, in my life have just skyrocketed. I'm coaching a lot more basketball, and I absolutely love it. We can get into that a little bit more later. My business is kind of taken off in a great way. I'm helping so many more people. So like all these things just came out of like a transition point in my life, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do school too. Like that, I thought about this a long time ago. I've deferred this 3 times because that was something that a lot of people knew. Like I got accepted back, I think, in May of last year. And I deferred it month after month because I was like, financially not the right time. And this change in my life's happening, so it's not the right time. And let me build a little more here. And then they basically said I can't, defer anymore. And I was like, totally fair. I got to jump on this, right? I'm a go-getter. I'm a person that's like, take action, build the life that you want, etc. So I was like, all right, this is that, point where I have to make a choice. So I made the choice to start school, and not to monologue too long, and you can ask more questions that kind of lead in, but like, I got about 3 weeks in, and I was really battling with myself. I was also having trouble staying present with, I'll be honest, with clients, with, other things I was participating in. And I love those things. I love my clients. I love working with them, having fun, getting them healthier. I love coaching basketball, and I was just like constantly worried about all these things going on. There was so much. It wasn't overwhelmed. I don't want to get caught up in that. I think a lot of people are going to hear this and be like, well, you just took on too much. And to be honest with you, I felt like that was it. That made me feel like a failure even more, because I was like, what, you just can't take this on?
Yeah.
Like, how about you just tough this out for 2.5 years? Come on, bro. Like that kind of stuff like goes into your brain. But for me, I through some reflection, I realized like, no, this gross feeling I have, this just like pit in my stomach, and this like kind of head spiral thing that was going on. Like I was just like, what are you going to do here? You're in the wrong place. And I think therapy is so important. And that's partially why I wanted to, be able to be a part of it. We can get into more of the nuance of like where I see myself now, but I think therapy is so helpful to people, and I just want to be a part of that. And I think, it was hard for me to like let go of that not being a piece of what I want to do, but I think it's going to be the best in the long run. And so, I made the tough decision to drop out of school.
You can add that to the resume, bro.
Totally. I actually wanted to put it in my LinkedIn bio. I was like, master's dropout, right? And like, we can talk about school and, education, certification and all those things. I think it's important, but you can't certify yourself to death, right? Like, I think experience and impact comes from a lot more of just action and being involved in things. And there's time and place for, getting certified and adding things to your repertoire.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because we've chatted a little bit about this off camera, so I have more context. But I want to know a little bit about like what truly made you want to go to school, because I think there's something that you told yourself was the reason why you wanted to go to school, and then what the real reason was to why you went to school.
That's a great question. I know where you're leading me on that one. Big part of me likes to constantly learn. Like, I'm always reading and soaking up new knowledge. So I was like, cool, I can do this in a structured environment. But I think if I'm being honest with you, and I have been, I have a problem with never feeling good enough, right? I have constant imposter syndrome to a degree. It's gotten better. It was, fierce when I first started my business because it's super scary, right? If I'm being totally honest with people. And you constantly question yourself.
Me too, by the way.
Yeah, thanks. I just, again, when the business was, kind of falling flat a little bit, year 2, it's like, this isn't really taking off like I thought it would.
What can I do?
What am I going to do? And it's like, then you play all these games in your head. I'm 32 years old at the time. I have this to show for it. I have a business that doesn't make a lot of money and is like, blah, blah, blah. And like all these other people are doing all these things. And you do all this bullshit, quite frankly, in your head. And that's where you have to kind of ground yourself, and you have to come back to, what's important to me. It doesn't matter where everybody else is, right? Because you don't know their problems and you don't know what's going well for them, and it could be, a lot more evolved than you think. So you need to kind of focus on yourself. And I think when I looked inward, I was like, what are all the things I love doing? And I just really love talking with people, helping people. But at the same time, I do that already. And this was kind of the realization I had, right? Like, I already do this. I just felt like if I had a therapy degree or psychotherapy degree or, masters of the arts of psychology
some type of credential.
Yeah, some type of credential. And the bigger the better. So let's just go get a master's. Yeah. The bigger the better. I'm going to be able to speak on the things I want to speak on.
Yeah.
Because you have to have credibility. But you know what I have? I have the credibility of life experience, and I have lots of certifications, and I have lots of just client-based experience. And a lot of you that are my clients or people that have talked with me, worked with me, etc., you all were like, this is great for you. This is going to be awesome for you. You're great at this. And thank you, because I appreciate that. It has allowed me to have the confidence to say, I actually don't need this. I can still obviously make an impact. But I essentially was like, you're not good enough yet. And I think based on all the success I've had up to this point, and I say that humbly, especially if you know me, you know that, I've had all this success, and it's like, and I want it to continue to grow. I just don't need this to do it. I needed to just lean more into all the things that I'm doing and doing at a pretty high level. And again, grow within that. So
from my perspective, like, obviously I get a little bit of an outside lens on like what you're doing, just like kind of watching you versus you being in it. And there's a couple things that stand out to me. So like I work a lot with like younger physiotherapy clinicians. Like, I run a physiotherapy business, so we run a mentorship. And one thing that we talk about a lot is we call it this idea of like, in the context of rehab, you're chasing this super physio. You want to become this physio that has all the answers, all the skill sets, all the knowledge, all the tactics, whatever, and you're chasing that. And what the thing is that doesn't actually exist. And so what we try to do is we try to fill what I call the imposter gap, which is where you are as like an individual and where you want to get to in terms of this super physio, and how we fill that gap and insert super physio with anyone's career, super trainer, whatever. It's like we try to fill this gap with more knowledge and more certifications. But the thing is that when you do that, you actually just make the gap bigger, because one, you realize that knowledge gaining is it's never ending. You're going to constantly have to be evolving. You're going to constantly have to fill that. And so if you're continues to fill this gap with certifications, it's not going to close that gap. What's going to close that gap is reflecting on your values and your standards and your skill sets and what you actually want as an individual for your journey. And when you do that, you start to realize that one, I have a lot of these things, and two, you become a lot more clear on what you need to do to get there. And it's not like you need to constantly be chasing these certifications. And so what I saw from you is that, like, you know, through conversation, is that you have an idea of what you want, and it's there. It's just like you're, one, a little bit nervous about taking that on like everyone else, but two, you're like, how can I fill this to make myself ready enough to take it on? And what I think you were starting to realize, and this is again from my perspective, was like, oh, these doors are opening and I'm actually doing the things that I want to do and I'm having success with them. Like, why do I need to keep filling this gap with something that's actually not? It's just I'm scared to jump into that, or I think I'm not good enough, so I'm just going to pretend to fill the gap with a course that you would actually be good at. You would be good at doing that, but is it serving what you're actually doing?
Yeah.
Probably not, in the sense that you're already doing that and you're already on the path. And so I think that's very common. I think that happens a lot in most people's journey, and I see it a lot in the physiotherapy space. But I think that is kind of, from my perspective, what I was watching in you. And the cool part is that you've been able to identify that before you got too deep into it.
Totally. And that's the thing. Like, quitting early doesn't mean it's a negative thing. Like, we don't listen to ourselves instinctively enough. Like, I had a pit in my stomach, and that is a signal, right? Like, I could have toughed it out, gone longer, done a year, and then people can say, well, at least you really tried. And I would have been like, well, at least I really spent 10 grand. Like, that's just a waste of my time and money. And honestly, the opportunity cost that I would have had of spending time doing something that I knew internally was not right. And again, I don't regret it. We've had this conversation. I'm so happy I did it. I spent the money that I did. I got the confirmation that it wasn't the right thing for me, which is what I needed, because I truly thought I wanted to be a psychotherapist and add it to my repertoire and build this beautiful company where, you know, I help people with their mindset and their bodies and nutrition. And it's this, you know, perfect triangle of health. But I'm going to still do that. It's just going to look different. I think the one thing that you said, though, is that we don't need to chase validation. And I think people get caught up that, like, validation is always external. Like, I'm always looking for internal or external validation. That's not the case. I'm actually looking for internal validation. I'm looking to constantly chase my best self, and just, I'm waiting for for me to look in the mirror and go, yo, you're doing enough. And I sat there in like week 2 and 3, and I was like, your business is doing the best it's done, and you're not even celebrating this. You've just picked up another thing to layer on. Like, when is going to be enough for you?
The crazy part is that, like, and this happens so much with everyone, it's happened with me, it's like you're having really good success in doing the thing that you want to do, and you're like super fired up about it, like telling me about all these things that you're doing. Meanwhile, you're bringing something else into the fold that's actually going to take away from you getting the internal validation of, like, I can do this. So it's almost like this self-sabotage in a sense, because you're bringing this other thing in, and now you're taking away from that because you were finding, like, I'm tired, I can't make content, I'm drained, I'm sitting in front of a computer. It's like the things that were actually providing you with the validation is like you're taking away from it by putting something else there that you don't really need.
Right. So I've learned this because I'm a perfectionist, and perfectionism is a security blanket, right? It's like, if I perfect everything, if I'm perfect at everything, if I think longer, do more, etc., like, bad things won't happen, or I won't fail, or I'll reduce the possibility of that so much that, like, it won't matter. And quite frankly, that's what I was like, you're trying to always seek. And I think you said this, if I keep creating safety nets, my safety nets actually limit me. So what I was experiencing was all these opportunities came into my, you know, purview, and I was doing all this stuff, and I had all these great, you know, people supporting me and giving me opportunities to do other things. And I was like, these doors are going to close if I don't work at the high level I know I can work at, and the level they can expect of me. And I'm a big person on commitment. So if I make a commitment to something, I mean it. And so I think I was making a commitment in the wrong space, and I had to do the hard thing. And again, luckily for me, school is, I'm just like a number to a degree, so I'm not disappointing anybody, but I wasn't about to disappoint the business relationships that I developed, or the new opportunities that I had, or the clients that I had, because I had made a commitment to them and their health and their fitness. And so again, when I felt that closing in on me, it was obvious what choice I had to make. But I'll take you through this part. I was having a lot of trouble, you know, internally, and people don't really see that because I'm good at hiding it, but because I felt trapped. And what I realized was, you're not actually ever trapped. You just aren't allowing yourself to acknowledge the other option. And the other option was quitting something. After I'd made a social media video about, I'm going back to school and like all this stuff. And I got 80 plus likes and all these views and I put it everywhere, right? No, it's not even about the likes because I love that video and I stand behind it.
But that's how you get caught into an identity that you don't really want. And then you know what I mean? Like that happens to people. So like, you got to be like, well, I guess I'm quitting school. But I mean,
totally. And that's why we're doing this now.
I was going to say you're making content out of it.
I am because it's important because you can change your damn mind.
I think that's a good lesson. Yes.
Right? Like you should change your mind.
You should.
Because you should go into things, dip a toe, maybe even just jump right in and then get the out. Like if that water's cold and you don't like it and it's not the right place, get out.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point about like doors and opportunities will close and they will. And I think a lot of people will say to people that have success that they're lucky, and I think to some degree there is luck. Obviously, it's lucky that we're even here on this earth, but I think that opportunity presents itself and a lot of people miss those doors by not being prepared or not being aware or focusing on the right things because they're scared to fail. Yeah. And so they put other things in there that distract it because it makes you feel comfortable. Like, okay, I'm just going to get this degree. And then once I get this degree in psychology or whatever it was you were doing, it's like, I'll be good enough to help people change their mindset, which is actually just making you miss opportunities to grow in the skill set of actually helping people change their mindset in the things that you're really good at.
Totally. Yeah. And like, again, a couple things. If you sit on a fence forever, that's going to start to hurt. Okay. So you have to make a decision, like hop off the fence and pick a side, dude. Because guess what? You can always hop back over, right? Or knock that fence down. Who cares? Like you will figure it out, right? But you're right. Doors will close. I think the other thing we need to talk about is sunk costs, right? People get caught up. I spent X amount of money, but I was sitting there staring at the, $40,000+ it was going to be over 2.5 years. And I'm like, that is more to me. I can get out of this right now. And the sooner the better, right? I did my due diligence. I wasn't just silly with it, right? Like I understood I was going to take a cost, but that cost was worth it for me to try it. And then at the time I decided to get out, it was good. And like I said, that sunk cost would have grown and grown and grown. And eventually there's a tipping point where you go, I can't get out of this. I'm all in. And you waste more time. You have more internal turmoil. And that's when people start to get, really out of the whack, right?
And sick and you probably start to let those other aspects of...
Dude, you break everything else. You break everything else in your life. You need to always, I don't know where I read this. Again, I'm quoting it from somewhere. Leave space. Leave space for things because things will pop up. Right? You don't have to overachieve in every aspect of your life. You don't have to fill every, thing on your calendar, right? I use a life calendar. Everybody knows this. I preach to my clients. It's not everybody's thing, but it's mine. And I will fill that thing. I will fill that thing on weekends because it's optimization, but it's not. Optimally working is actually a balance. And I've been trying to figure out what that is. And my balance, maybe in your balance, will look different than other people's because I like to accomplish a lot of stuff. But if I leave no space, I could feel the wheels like just getting creaky and slowing down, and like there was no way for me to oil that thing and get it back to like running at a high level. Right before I went to school, humming. I was like, this is great. I'm doing awesome. I'm super balanced personally, right? Physically, mentally, business wise, everything was running really, really well, and people could see it. You're always so light. You're always so fun. And so that's the other thing, and we'll get to this in a second, but like I realized, therapy was not for me too, because I think the approach I want to take to help people is positivity, belief, excitement. I'm going to be that. I can hold space for anybody. I want to, if it's needed, but I'm always going to turn around to the other side of like, let's find a positive, a way to get our bodies moving, to do things, to raise us up. And, sometimes therapy's not that. Sometimes therapy, and I've been in certain, certain times of my life where it's not good for a little while. Like you're in a dark place or you're in the depths of mental conundrum and you can't figure it out. So for me, it was like, though, not that I couldn't do that for people or I don't want to fully, the way I know that I'm best serving people is not that, and serving myself. Because if I'm going to be able to give to others, I need to be able to be good to myself. And I could see that realm, that area is just not going to be for me, and that's okay. And there's so many great professionals that will, be able to help people in that way, and I have to be okay with not being able to, or not wanting to. The other thing too is, right, like you're a physiotherapist. I refer a lot of people to you because I think you're fantastic, and so is your group, the movement. But it's not doesn't mean I'm not a good personal trainer. Doesn't mean I can't help people with injuries or different things. There is just a time where I'm no longer the best person for them, and I've gotten much better at just being humbly like, you need to see somebody else for this, and that's okay. Because every time we've done that, where you've maybe helped a client or even helped me, I learn, I become better, and that is growth. That is learning. That is the stuff that I plan to do over the next 2.5 years. And again, not that it's bad to learn out of a book or online, but I want to actionably get involved. And I learn very fast when I work experientially. I know that's how I work or how I learn. So for me, this is just the best use of my time for myself, to get back to myself and then to give to others, because I do want to do that as a life purpose. But it's both. I'm not just a good person because I give to others. That doesn't make me a good person. I'm a good person if all I wanted to do was, another job where it was all about me. You could be a data, person, and you just like type all day and you put in data. I don't know. I can't pick a job because I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to be like devalue any job. You could do literally any job and it's still valuable because you're valuable as a human, even if you do whatever. It's just, what do you want to do with your life? What is your purpose? And when you find that, you're going to feel better. And that's actually where your energy goes up. And then you do give to people. And yeah, again, I'm really tangenting, but like, I just don't, I was maybe always taught that your value comes from what you do in the world. And I don't think that is true. I think you start off valuable, you remain valuable, first to yourself and then to others. You have friends, family, supporters, etc. They all love you, and it's like whatever you choose to do is your purpose, and you should just go all in on that, and then you will have great effect on others that participate with you or do different things, and not just in a service industry like we're in. This is just the path I chose. Mm-hmm. So, and now I'm choosing an even more defined path that's going to fill me up and hopefully fill up others and help. So, yeah.
That was beautiful.
Holy shit.
We need to try to figure out if in some way I end up doing more episodes with you, bro, we got to have some type of like button or something where we can just like
cut me off.
Just like, hey, like stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. You probably had lots to stay there.
Stop.
That's the button.
I'm just kidding. That was
we'll tap him on the head and we'll be like, okay, that was good.
That was really good, bro. I agree with all that stuff. I want to ask you a question though.
Sure.
Because I think what's really challenging for people is like they're aware that that's going on, that they should stop, they should quit, they should take that sunk cost and move on. But there's a difference between like thinking about it and actioning on it. So like I'd be curious to know like what are a couple things that you did that led you to actually take the action on that?
Yeah. So I'll tell a story and within this somewhere that's really good, because I wasn't always good at maybe making these decisions. I think when you act in emotion, it's never a good outcome. Like, and my father and I have talked about this many times. Like, I'm a very emotional, passionate person, but I can be extreme on both sides, so I can make quick decisions. So I think given, how my life's transpired, I make better decisions now. So when I was, worried about school, I was probably worried. I was worried second week when I got my first mark, and I'm like, oh, what I did last week isn't enough to get me, the 80 I wanted or whatever it was. I was like, you're going to be able to do this. And then as I was slowly getting further and further, I had to weigh all the things in my head. Is it because you feel like you're, failing? You're not good enough? Do you feel like you can't balance it? That's why you're going to quit? And I had to just keep participating in all the work, doing the discussion questions. Like, I knew I was going to quit, last Friday, and I still was doing discussion questions up until Saturday. And then there was just a certain point. And even then, when I didn't do my first discussion question that was due on a day, I was like, am I going to live? Like, Am I going to die right now? I'm behind. I can't go back. Like, because I don't want to lose marks for being stupid or just like, for just letting it lapse.
Yeah.
But I had to let it lapse because I was going to let the whole thing go. So I had to like pace it out. And so I'll tell a quick story because my dad will love this. So I've done this to myself before, maybe, where I take on too much. And I think this is really good for people, especially if they're in university. Because again, this is kind of, I may be more further away from being able to be a dropout than, maybe people thought, and I think people go through this more at a younger age. But when I got done business school, I had an exam on the Saturday. I can't remember what exam it was. By the Monday, I'd already had a job lined up. Like, I had already had a job lined up because I thought I had to. And I didn't give myself any space. After 4 years of like grinding through that period of time, I was like, yep, going right into the workforce. Why wouldn't I? What am I going to do with free time? Why does that matter? Like, we underappreciate needing to take space and time and slow down. And so I took that job. I got that job, via, friends' recommendation. So this was super hard. And that's actually come up in the last year again as like a joke. And I have to eat that. But like, I showed up at that job and it was just not for me. I could tell. I'm like, I cannot sit here and do data entry and call blah, 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 and do all this stuff. Like, I am not going to do this. And I was a half hour in, and I left before lunch. Like, I was gone, dude. Yeah, I left before lunch, dude.
Do you even have like an employee number?
No, I didn't. And I was like, you don't have to pay me for this. I was like, I'm sorry, guys. I'm out. And again, at the time, right, people are looking at me probably like, who's this punk kid? I'm not a punk kid. I'm a really respectable human, even at that time. Like, I wasn't perfect, but, and I didn't mean to do that in a negative way, but I was like, I'm uncomfortable, and I cannot be here for like my own well-being. I just cannot be here, and I'm not supposed to. So I quit. I started working at the beach. I took that whole period, like that whole summer, and just chilled. And dude, it was the best. It was the best. And again, I worked at the summer the following year because I needed another job because things didn't work out through that year. You're going to try, you're going to fail. You might as well fail fast, especially if you know you're not in the right place. Get out, go do something that kind of mellows you out so you can really find yourself. You can, figure out what's right for you or start applying to different things and chill. If you don't chill, you will never like see what's right. If you're too foggy and blurred and all these people have all these opinions and all this stuff, you won't be able to know what is the right thing for you. So the best part is, and why my dad will like this, is I quit and then I was like, oh shit. And I went to my Nana's house and my grandpa's house and I told them first because I was not going to tell my dad. And then they were like, it's going to be okay. He'll understand. And I was like, I don't think he will. Like, this is going to be bad. Like, so anyway, so I ended up talking to him and it was fine and everything else. And, ironically enough, we just went through this story because, I called him on Saturday and I said, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And you know what? I think this shows so much growth, in a parent-child relationship. Like, he was so supportive. He's like, you know yourself better than anybody, especially now that you are a full adult. He's like, you are 33. You are running a business. You need to make the right decision for you. I support whatever that is, right? You lose a little bit of money. We both know, who cares about that, right? He's like, I'm 65 now. Like, I understand how life is so fleeting and how important it is to do what you're meant to do or what you want to do and enjoy yourself because it goes by quickly. And if you don't, and he said, you don't have any responsibilities right now to anybody but yourself. And it's a beautiful time. So construct your life the way you want. You may not get this opportunity again. And I was like, okay, thank you. And that just, I can't tell you how I didn't need it because I am an adult, but I did want it and I got it. And it was such a beautiful moment because I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Thanks for the support. You're going to be here for me, Like, I know he's always there for me. But, like, it re-solidified that. It's not about being there. It's just about, like, actually supporting, like, the whatever they're doing. You can be there. Anybody can, say, here's some money because you had this problem or whatever. That's bullshit. Like, what being there is listening and then actually supporting that person and talking them through it and being there for the next few steps when it gets tough, right? So, and he's there for me, so I appreciate you.
So yeah, I think that's a great story, and like, so what I'm hearing so far is like having awareness of like, okay, this isn't the right thing for me, and I'm listening to that, this feeling that I'm getting, knowing that, identifying that. And the second thing, which I'm glad you told that story because this is what I was trying to get at, was talking to other people that know you, that can give you some feedback. I think having a select few people in your life that can actually give you that feedback is really important because you need to get out of your own head. And so obviously your dad in that situation was able to really help you with that. And I think sometimes, and this is from my own personal experiences, I like try to say, okay, I'm just going to figure this out on my own. And I'll sit in my own head and I'll have these conversations with myself for a long period of time without actually like consulting in the people that are closest to me. And so I think that's a really important thing because that, I would imagine, helped to solidify the decision. Not that you, like you said, not that you needed it. Like you already knew that the decision was there, but it's comforting to be like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah. I think the other, on the other side of that point, you don't want to ask too many people because then you get too many opinions that aren't your own. Yeah. And then your head starts circling that way too, right? Because again, people are going to have opinions. Some of them are going to be about you. They want you to be, don't want you to make rash decisions. They want you to see you succeed, especially if I've talked about this for a long time, which I had, right? That was the hardest part when I started telling people about it, right? Because then I got to do it. I didn't have to, but I felt like I did to a degree. So his opinion was good. I had another, mentor of mine. He gave me a great opinion, and all these people were just supportive of whatever I wanted to do. And then they gave me both sides, and then they said pros, cons based on me. Mm-hmm. And again, similar to when I told it to you, you can actually give your,
which I,
this is hilarious.
I wasn't a good enough, friend yet with Connor. I mean, Connor, our friendship, the potential of our friendship has been like flourishing. in the last little while. And Connor told me all about all this stuff, and I didn't think I was close enough to him at the time to be like, yo, you should definitely not do that. But I had those thoughts just having known you enough and hearing your story and you telling me these things. And so it was funny when you told me and you're like, yo, I got something to tell you. And then you're like, I'm not going to go to school anymore. And I'm just like, good.
Yeah, it's not I didn't expect that answer. Good, man. I didn't think you should. That was literally how it went. I was like, bro, what? Like, pardon? He's like, yeah, man, I ranted about this at one point, and like, I don't think you should go. I literally was like having a monologue with myself about like, I don't think he's ready to do this. I'm like, fuck, okay, dude.
So now that we have been able to share this conversation, I now know that I can't do that anymore. I just got to be like, yo, bro.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm sorry, guys, but it's important for you to have friends that can just be honest with you about what they feel is right for you, and then you also still make the decision, right? So if you'd have told that to me, I would have respected it because I respect you. I respect your opinions. I know it comes from care. But yeah, like, if you can't allow your friends to you got to give your friends that space to be able to do that, and then kind of obviously make your own decision, and then they have to support you. That's actually true friendship, and that's where we're at. I don't think I've ever told you. I remember the first time we ever sat down and had like coffee.
Me?
Yeah, with you. Yeah, do you remember when we went to Coffee Culture?
I do remember, yeah.
Okay, so I've never been on a mandate, but like I was so excited for this like mandate, this potentially to be a friend date.
I'm honored, man.
Yeah, because like I was introduced to Dalton, and I was like, he has his own business. He's doing all these things like that I want to do, that I'm scared to do, that I think I'm meant to do, and I'm like, I hope he fucking likes me. I hope he likes me. Oh my gosh. Like, I hope we get to have another coffee. Like, and you know, it was fun because we sat down and we had a good conversation. It went by so quick. I was nervous. And then he's like, yeah, bro, we'll talk again.
I needed a button.
What, for me on that day? I talked to him. Oh, there? Yeah, stop it.
No, on that day.
Oh,
but we weren't at that place yet.
No, man, it was good. It was a good hangout. But I was like, I'm really hopeful that I get to be around this person more and I get to learn from this person. And I think just like partners, and I hold this to be true, I think you should admire your partners. You should admire your friends. And when you find people that are doing similar things to you, that are, you know, have the strengths that maybe you were trying to work on, and vice versa, you can really help each other and build each other up. And you've always been a big person to build me up, and I hope I've been able to do that for you as well. But that really solidifies friendship. So lucky for me, I got a second date and a third and a fourth, and we're friends. But
here we are, bro.
Yeah, doing podcast stuff,
sharing some conversations.
100%, dude.
And a donut. You want me to feed the donut to you?
Oh my god, I don't know if we're gonna go there, but I'll be eating that donut for sure.
All right. What else we got?
I don't know. What other questions do you have? Do we want to talk, like, to have a more general conversation about quitting? Because I think, again, I don't know how people are taking this.
We were getting there. Like, I think you talked to people about it. You realized you wanted to quit. And then,
what have you quit before? This is a better question. Let's throw it back to you.
Chewing tobacco.
Oh my gosh! As if you just said that. Oh my gosh. Oh.
No, I think
that's hilarious.
I mean, I did quit chewing tobacco.
Yeah. Naturally.
But I think there's a few things that I've tried to pursue, and then realized that it wasn't serving me at the time. So like, I never had a moment where like I quit this. Like, your decision was that's a pretty big decision, I think. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I haven't had anything like that where I had to quit school or whatever, but there have been times recently.
Can I say something quick? It didn't feel big. Like, once I decided it felt small.
Yeah.
It felt bigger to others. I just knew.
I guess the
Isn't that odd?
Yeah, it is interesting. The perception of quitting school is like this big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it was terrifying for a bit. And then as soon as I literally looked at myself and I was like, I still got you, bro. Like, if you do this, like, to myself, like, I'll say it. I still love you. Like, I still love myself doing this. I still love everything I'm going to do. I love you more for stepping up. Like, I don't care how that sounds. Like, I was like, you can do this. I had no problem after that, dude. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to other people, and I was like, am I going to tell people right now? I'm not going to tell them. I'm going to wait. And then all of a sudden, somebody would be like, how's school? And I'm like, yeah, I quit. Like, I didn't even wait. I ripped the Band-Aid off because I was like, there is no Band-Aid for me anymore. I'm just so okay with this, right? Mm-hmm. Discussion question lapsed. I'm all in on this. Let's roll. Let's roll to the next thing. I was, excited to talk to you because I was like, we got to do this podcast. I want to send this out. I think this is a sick message. And then I can move on, in a positive way. But anyways, back to you.
No, I think that's a good point. And I think that's what I was getting at is like asking this question, like, is this still serving you? So I've done things, for just a couple examples. Like I started my own podcast at one point, and it was something that I enjoyed doing. I wanted to do it. I had fun doing it, and I still kind of every now and then poke in and try it. But I had to have a conversation with myself, like, is this actually serving me on the mission of what I'm trying to accomplish? And the answer was no. It was great. It was fun. I liked it, but I was like, okay, I need to step away from it because it's not, and at the time I was like, oh yeah, I have to quit this. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I don't want to let people down, even though there's no people to really let down. It was just myself, right? So I think that's an example, but I've never really honestly I've never really quit something.
Oh, look at you, eh?
That.
Never quit anything.
I mean, the only other thing would be like stopping. Now you're making me angry.
Angry.
The only other thing would be like quitting football, like retiring, like a year before I really wanted to. Going into physio school, my 4th year of football, I decided that I wasn't going to keep playing, even though I physically could have, and our team was having success. We just won 2 championships. I would have the opportunity to win 3 championships, and that was a really hard moment for me because it was like physically, and I loved being there. It's like it was a great thing for me. It was like coming to the end of my career, which is hard when you're making that transition because, like everyone, you have this vision of like, oh, I'm going to go to the CFL. And like, I spent a lot of time working my ass off to try to make that something happen. And then obviously I was self-aware enough to realize that wasn't happening and I was pursuing other things. But even at that point, it's like, you still have to decide, okay, like, is this still serving me? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I want to try to get into physio school. I know that's the path. I love playing football. But if I play and I commit to practicing 5 days a week and playing a game on the weekend in the middle of like the biggest year of me getting good grades and getting volunteering to try to get into school, maybe I don't actually get into school. And I was like, well, I can't risk that. I need to go all in on this. So that would be one thing where I had to quit. I call it retiring, but I had to quit and not play, which sucked. But it's like, to your point, it's like the perception of it, the build up to it was so stressful. And like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to tell my coaches I'm going to let them down. And of course they're like, yeah, we don't want you to quit. Like, you're a big part of this team. But at the same time, they're like, yeah, we also know that you got things you got to do and like, you're going to go after them. And so that's probably the only other thing I can really think of.
Dude, it's funny because the football thing has been a conversation we've had a lot more, and I just love hearing you talk about it because I think it's great for athletes everywhere. And I think, like, I don't know how many people know that about you, that you played like high level football and like CFL aspirations, which I'm a CFL fan. CFL's awesome.
So yeah, CFL,
aspirations.
That thing where I talked about that like imposter gap. It's like aspirations, reality, gap.
So talk about that though. Did you have to have a look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I really going to go all into this? Do I have a chance, or why?
Yeah, I just realized early on that it wasn't. Like, not early on. Like, I mean, when I was coming out of high school, I was like, okay, there's still potential, like going to play at the next level. But like, I'm a very self-aware person to like look at my skill set and be like, I just know I don't have it. Because I look at guys that were on my team that were the best players, like the top players, and they're still from a skill set level like not getting there. And I was like, I just don't have that. And like a lot of my skill sets as a player, like I was good. Like I played on all-star teams. I played at the next level. It wasn't like I was shit by any means, but a lot of my success came from other aspects. Like I was a good leader. I knew all the plays. I was always doing the right thing. I always showed up and worked hard. I was a consistent person that was going to show up and do their job. I wasn't going to be the guy that was like a superstar in the game, but like you could count on me to do the things that need to get done. And so I realized that really early. So I just doubled down on that. I was like, okay, how do I become the most consistent player? How do I become great in practice? How do I make my teammates better by holding them accountable and showing up every day and that kind of thing? And so I leveraged that a lot, which I think is what actually got me to continue to play and be on the field and be part of teams that like from a pure skill set, like I probably wasn't the best player to be in that position, but because of those other things, I think the coaches recognized that and like kept me in and kept me doing things. Again, not that I was trash. I don't want anyone to get that,
Yeah.
But
you should never say it to yourself anyways.
But I knew the skill
levels.
Yeah. And so I was recognizing that early on, which is then what led to me to like that transition was easier because I knew the truth and I was like, okay, bro, you can't lie to yourself.
Totally, and that's good. But like I think this is a good thing for young athletes. Like we all should aspire to be our absolute best, reach our absolute potential. And sometimes with athletics, when you're young, you believe that could be anything. And I think you should take that really far and really, work hard. Because if you don't actually believe that for a period of time, you won't push yourself enough. And there has to be that like almost crazy belief in yourself. I think that's great. And then there's reality, right? And then again, there's so many levels to all these sports that we played, right? Basketball for me, football for you, something for somebody else. But it is letting go of something at a certain point and knowing that you don't necessarily have to step away from the game fully. You could do other things. That's why, I'm pumped to be coaching basketball again. It's like me coming back around to something that, I didn't go as far as I wanted to. And like my story is like I got cut in university 2 times. Hurt, crushed me. That was my identity, was basketball, But if you actually allow that to, again, you said retire. That's so funny. I literally was like telling somebody the other day, I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can just apply to the NBA draft as like anybody once you're past a certain age. Mm-hmm. And I could just put my name out there and get a certificate that I didn't get drafted. That would just like really
you should
cheer me up.
Put it up on the
yeah, frame that like
be on
undrafted. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But dude, like that's the thing. It's hard retiring or letting go or whatever. And then I had imposter syndrome for a long time about, I'm not good enough to be a part of this game. But there's lots of values, not only from a skill teaching standpoint, but from a person standpoint, from a structure standpoint. Again, from me now, I can understand the body better too. Like I can coach kids on so many levels. It's not just about where I played or how high I played. And I had to realize that, right? There's a lot of aspects, and you can be a better coach than you were a player. There's lots of NBA coaches that demonstrate that too. But for you, because I love you talking about football. Like that sounds like that was an easy decision to a degree. Did you ever have doubts after the fact?
A little bit. Like I had, not really, to be honest, because I knew, kind of similar to you, it's like when you know the truth and you follow that, and then that moment happens where you quit, everyone accepts it, you move on. It's like, and you step into the path that you're actually supposed to be on. It's like you feel at peace with it.
Yeah,
and that's what I did feel. Did I get sad and do I still drive by a football field and be like, damn, like that sucks? Of course. And did that team go on to win the championship again? And they had
really?
And they had a 3-peat? Yes. Did I not get 3 in a row? Yes.
Oh, buddy.
Am I sad about that? Yes. But when I look at what I have now and what I was able to accomplish with actually getting to physio school, I didn't want to leave that on the table, right? And I think there's a way we can tie this in a bow.
3 rings. You could have had 3 rings.
I know. Hold on. I'm going to get to something good.
That's wild.
I think we could tie this in a circle here, is that what I could have done is I could have played that year, and then I could have not gotten to physio school, and then I could have been like, well, I just wasn't good enough to get into physio school, but I actually would have I played football, so I'm like, it was because I played football, that's why I didn't get into physio school. It's like people will use those things as a scapegoat. Like what you were kind of doing is like, if you didn't start having success, it'd be like, oh shit, like I went to school, so it distracted me from my business. Now my business isn't going. You play victim to that. I think a lot of people do that. And so I think that's why it's like important to, when you recognize those things and go through the process that you went through, that you step into that, although hard, you step into it, because when you do, then you're at peace with that decision. And on the path, it's like, okay. And that's what I felt after I did that. I was like, all right, this is where I'm supposed to be. And now from that point, everything is parlayed into doing what I am now, which I feel very similar to what I think you're getting to, is like I feel like I am on the right path. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. It fills me up every day, and I know this is where I'm supposed to be. Like that's what everyone's chasing, and like I'm lucky enough to have that now.
Yeah.
And so I'm grateful that I did that. I made that choice, because I don't know if I would have actually gotten to this point, and I also know I wasn't getting to the CFL.
Yo.
So I'm glad that I didn't play that year, although I would have liked 3.
Totally. Everybody likes a 3-peat. Jordan made that flashy, I really appreciate that story. For those of the viewers that don't know, because again, this is going to be the first my podcast. Who are you? What do you do? Like that's the thing we didn't really cover.
Want me to go into
I want you a little bit, because you just said you're on your path. Why is that your path? Why are you?
Are we going to go for 2 hours? How long? You
No, man. But I appreciate what you have to say about.
Don't get so.
Bro, I think you're fantastic.
I thought you were going to ask me
I don't have to go crazy.
I thought you were going to ask me how I quit chewing tobacco.
Oh man, you want to divulge that?
No, I'm just kidding. You want me to tell them about who I am?
Just quickly, and why is the movement different? And what is the movement? And why? Bro. Just give. I know. It's a tirade for another day. But you know yourself better than anybody, I think. So you just hit him with the brand, the 30-second pitch.
Yeah, okay. So when I say stepping into what I want to do, so I'm one of the 3 founders of the Movement Physio and Performance, which is a physiotherapy and health business. Something that we've been doing for quite a long time now. The brand's been building for about 7 years. We've been working clinically for about 5 years. But I think the reason why I feel like I'm doing exactly what I'm doing is I felt very similar to Connor at times, where I was working and I was doing my thing, but it wasn't really filling me up, and it wasn't the way that I thought it was supposed to be, in the way that I wanted to spend my days. And so I was realizing that very early on. So I decided, okay, well, I don't want to keep going down this path, because I know where this path leads. It leads to me getting very burnt out, not fulfilled, not enjoying my career, and more than likely probably leaving the profession, which I thought very much about leaving the profession before even getting into the profession in physio school, which is what kind of ignited the movement and the process of all that, the brand that we built. But I was recognizing that. So I said, okay, I know the outcome of that. The other option is like, okay, let's step out of this and let's try to do my own thing and see if we being my business partners and I, create this thing that we believe to be the way that we want to show up every day and treat people and really truly help people. And so, not knowing the outcome of that, I thought it was the right thing, but it could have not been. I decided, okay, let's do that, because I know the other path is going to take me probably more than likely to burn out and leaving the profession. So I made that jump and we started the business. And I believe that it was the right decision. And now when I show up every day, I'm doing things that I love. I'm doing it the way that I believe it should be done, to actually genuinely help people and their health. And I get to do that on a daily basis. And I feel that, which is something that I think a lot of people chase, and I always wanted it, and now I'm in it, which is sometimes hard to recognize, but that's what I feel.
Yeah, I think, as entrepreneurs, as people that work really hard, we don't give ourselves time for gratitude.
Yeah.
For what we have. And it sounds like you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. But like, why? What is the way you treat people that's so, like, how do you do it?
I think like our thing is like, we truly want to help empower people to take control of their health. And like, we focus on how can we do that by, educating them. And also, like, big part of what we do is exercise based in the physiotherapy space. I feel like that isn't necessarily always done the best. And we like to use certain other modalities as ways to reduce pain and help people feel better, but we don't actually help people take control of their health and get back to doing the things they love. So a big thing that we try to do is educate and build people to actually do that. And so exercise is a big part of that. And the reason why I like exercise, it's not because, well, one, from an evidence-based perspective, for most injuries, it's very good, in comparative to just like other modalities. So that's one thing. I think it should be done that way. But also the reason why I like exercise is that it's empowering and that it actually helps improve people's health. And that's what I think we need to do with most injuries. It's like most people come in and they're hurt, and we can use an injury as a catalyst for them to take control of their health. And one way we do that is teaching them the skills of how to implement exercise and educate them on why the injury happened and educate them on how they can manage it, so that when they go back out into the world, they have these tools and these skills to navigate it the next time it comes up. And if we can implement and build exercise into their life, they're going to be healthier, they're going to be stronger, their lives are going to be better. And I think that's truly how you can help people, versus like them coming to us helping reduce their pain with some type of modality or even exercise, but not doing anything to actually like build them up, empower them to, take control of their health or be more healthy, I guess.
Well said. I wasn't going to button you because I, love you too much.
You
I don't need to button you.
You trapped me into that.
That was great. Dude, I think, this is why, I think we've spent a lot of time together. I think you should pursue what you think, the way you think things should be done, in a sense, because people are going to resonate with that and gravitate towards that. And I know you help people. I can see it. I can see it. Sometimes when I do those big tangents, I black out. And that's why, the camera shut off because I've tangented too much. So we officially blacked out.
I think it was a good sign that it was time to wrap up the podcast.
Yeah, we didn't need the button.
We've been yapping too much.
100%. Okay, you ready to do this? We're going to christen this Dropout.
Here, I'll hold it for you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, sweetie. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm not blowing this out, so.
Yes, sir, I'm blowing it out. All right.
Hey.
Yay. Okay, quickly. I love this. Quickly, so I had a friend tell me a really beautiful story about when her sister, I believe it was, dropped out of school. Her mom had a party for her. So that's why we did the donut. That's why we did this little celebration. So the person I'm referring to knows who they are. But like, I think that's how we should talk about getting on our right path. Like, this is me quitting something to be on the right path, to get back on the path, right? It's not anything else. And I think you need to celebrate people when they make the decision that's right for them and support them through it. And again, we celebrate only victories. We don't celebrate failures, and failures how we get to the real victories, right?
I love that.
So we're going to stop there. That's the end of the first official True Potential podcast episode.
We made it.
Thanks, buddy. Okay. See you guys.
Peace.